Hi, and welcome to my parents' house from New Zealand, where I currently am trying to have a summer holiday, but it's not summery, and it's not a holiday because I'm working. But, we're here, and we're going to answer some Q&A questions today because I'm without a studio currently, so instead, I thought I'd do something cute from good old Sue and Bruce's house. First of all, we're going to look at a small archive of pieces that I have found in Sue and Bruce's house. So first of all, we have this, which is my dad's favorite coffee cup. This was made when I was here on a trip, a few years ago, and I wrangled my way into a studio space at my art school where I went. And I did like a residency thing there and just got to make some pieces. And then I went home, which was nice. Next we have this. This hot mess, this fat bottom girl, which is a true archive piece. This is one of the first pieces I ever made with a handle, and I remember it clearly. It's a jug, although it's not very well trimmed. It's got some crawling. I tried to do something interesting with like a little cloud pattern at the bottom with some wax resist. Got a crack in the bottom. It certainly doesn't pour well, and the handle is not a great example of how to attach a handle. But hey, we all start from somewhere. Next up, we have a big platter. This was a little bit further down my journey. I was still in New Zealand, and I made some fruit bowls from a big mold that I found at the Canterbury Potters Association, where I was making some pots. And it was real cool. It was like my first experience making larger pieces, and I think it's quite cool. I drew some stuff with a ceramic pencil. I didn't have a stamp at that stage. I just wrote my name, wrote Mae on it, and I don't know, it's quite cool. Doesn't look like it's been fired to full maturity, but that's all right. Got a little bit of crazing going on, but it's kind of cool. It's quite interesting. Holds oranges very well. Next up, is this the last piece? There's one more piece. Next up we have the coffee cup that I have been enjoying my coffee from since being here at Sue and Bruce's house, at my parents' house. This is a piece I made in London, and my dad was, oh look, it's raining. This is what I'm saying about, it's not a great summer. Anyway, Dad was around, he helped me make some pots, thanks Dad, and I just gave him a set of them after I was done because they're quite fun. This is a really nice clay I used to use, and I have no idea what it was, but I think it's great. Every time I come back here and I use this cup, I'm like, right on, I should find out what this clay is because I like that contrast quite a lot. And the last piece is, thanks Jack, my very helpful assistant. This is a candlestick that I made for our wedding a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, when we came over to New Zealand for that, and I made a whole lot of stuff for decoration at the venue, and then I said to everyone, you can take some pieces home if you want to. So everyone took some stuff, and it was like their little wedding favors, and it was really fun. Got to make some really interesting pieces. I still make this style of candlestick now, but this one's special because it has JH and LM and our wedding anniversary date on it. So that's real special, I reckon. Anyway, thanks to my husband while I'm with him for being my assistant. Cheers, mate. Okay, now we're gonna get into the Q's and the A's. Right, I had a lot of questions. You guys were not shy asking, so thank you so much. I've got a list of maybe 10 or 15 that I'm gonna answer, and I think they kind of straddle all of the questions, and if they don't, I'm sorry, but maybe I'll do another Q&A soon. What would I do differently if I look back at when I started ceramics? I actually kind of have a whole video on this, which is what I would do differently if I started now. I don't know what it's called. I'll link it. I think I would protect the joy of what I found in ceramics a little bit more, and I would kind of follow the stuff that I enjoyed, and maybe I wouldn't jump so quickly into trying to monetize it, because that I think has been the biggest thing that has made ceramics a little bit less joyful for me, is that it is my job. Obviously that is kind of the dream, and I don't want to shit on that too much because it's a really special position that I'm in, and I have, for the last 10 years, I've had lots of freedom in choosing what I do, and I've had loads of really cool opportunities that I've been able to work with, But I think I would just protect the joy a little bit more and monetize it a little bit later if I did decide to monetize it at all. Before we answer any more questions, I just wanted to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning platform for creatives, and it offers courses in all sorts of things like graphic design, photography, illustration, UX, UI design, all sorts of different things. I have taken quite a few courses now on Skillshare, and I wanted to tell you about a really cool one today called Draw Your Notes, an introduction to visual note-taking by the Ink Factory Studio. The start of the new year is a really amazing time to take stock around organization and your note-taking and the year ahead. For me, I'm a lifelong doodlist. Really love taking this course to remind me that being a doodler is a-okay. Visual note-taking is a skill of organizing and capturing information through hand-drawn images and text. Whether you're a doodler like me or you're more digital inclined, Skillshare will have something for you. You can tell Skillshare what you fancy learning, and then you can browse through their thousands of courses, or you can check out their learning paths, which are curated sequential class collections to master a specific skill. The first 500 people to use my link below, or by scanning the QR code on the screen here, will receive 1 month free of Skillshare. Thank you very much, Skillshare. Okay, we're back. So the next two questions we've got: when you started, how did you find your first group of buyers? And then how do you get commissions? And do they reach out or do they find me? So I think they're kind of related, those ones. So we'll start at the start. When I started, how did I find my first group of buyers? Started out probably selling a little bit too quickly. I probably could have had a little bit longer between learning how to make pottery and people paying money to me for my work. Yeah, I would say that my work wasn't quite ready, but I was making quite a lot of hand-built pieces at that time because my throwing definitely needed a bit of work. And so around the time that I made that fruit platter actually that I showed at the start, started an Instagram around then, and I had a local business here in Christchurch reach out to me, and she was like, do you want to collaborate? So we did like a little buy something and get something sort of thing. And so I made a whole lot of plates, like little plates for that. Actually, I'm sure I have one here, one moment. I do. So this little guy was a little cake plate, I guess. And so people could buy these with a cake and they could give it to their mums for Mother's Day. Yeah, this was like my first commission. And I think that also was the first time I had started really selling things. Maybe I had started selling like little pieces here and there before that, but yeah, this was one of my early guys. So I think I was lucky in that Instagram and like being in Christchurch, which is a bit smaller than what I'm used to now in London. It was a really good place to start selling stuff because local people are really keen to like build people up and support each other. And so they saw this like brand new ceramicist and they were like, right on, let's buy this stuff. I feel like you can just find your footing a little bit easier here in Christchurch than I have found that you can in London. Not to say it's not possible in London, it's just kind of, it feels a little bit easier here. I would say that all commissions after that, which is kind of the second part of that question, I would say that they mostly found me. I think my first big commission in London was after a open studio. So I was in a shared studio and there was like a big event on it. Just random people would come off the street and it was really busy because we were a big shared studio. And so I just had lots of eyes on my work suddenly. At that time I had heaps of work just like out on a table, and so I found a commission quite easily from this guy who was making stuff for a restaurant that he was opening, and he wanted a ceramicist to do some work for him. So that's how I got my first commission there, and I think it just started building. I was quite good at reaching out to people at that stage, so I'd reach out to shops and see if they wanted to wholesale my work. I think I was trying to get in touch with restaurants, but it's always quite hard to get in touch with a restaurant before they've opened, just like at the point where they need plates, but kind of a few months before that so you can actually make them by the time that they need them. So I was lucky that people kind of found me through my Instagram mostly. I will say that it took quite a while for any kind of retail buying to properly pick up. So I had a part-time job at this time and that was vital, otherwise I wouldn't make any money from anything. But I had an online shop and I would do shop updates, but I wouldn't find that much success with them, which was fine because I had other stuff that I was doing and focusing on. But I would just say as I grew my social media following, those shop updates became bigger and bigger and they were able to pretty much sell out quite quickly because of my Instagram following. There was a big answer to those questions. I hope that helps. Next question is, do you enjoy teaching? And is teaching on the plan to do more in 2025? And the answer is yes to both. I love teaching. I find it quite difficult teaching from my own studio because it's kind of not set up for it, and so I feel like I need to do loads of tidying and kind of rearrange all the wheels and stuff so that it is an inviting place for people to be in and feel comfortable in. So I really like teaching from other studios that are set up for teaching. I do have quite a few teaching dates on the calendar this year. I have some in New Zealand actually, which are all sold out at this stage, so I'm not going to talk that much on that. But I have some at Crownworks Pottery, which is based in London, in East London, so you can come on to those. A few throwing workshops, a few hand building workshops, a few day long, a few tasters, so yeah, there's quite a lot in there from end of Feb until June, I think I'm kind of on the roster for, sporadically throughout that time. And then I also have a week-long teaching block that I'm doing, so it's like an immersive hand building workshop starting with mold making all the way to finishing like a whole kind of dinner set, and that is in Brenchley, which is kind of near Tunbridge Wells. Really excited about that. So I think that what I like most about teaching is really getting to know students and working within different skills and different interests and stuff, and having a little bit of time to work that out. So I'm excited to do a whole week-long thing. That should be really cool. And then maybe on the flip side of that, the next question is, do you ever feel lonely working in the studio alone? I miss a shared studio. Yeah, I definitely do. So I actually share my studio now with my friend called Ali, and we have such a fun time in the studio, but she works part-time and she's in the studio part-time, and I'm not part-time, but I do lots of YouTube stuff and I do lots of other stuff, so I'm not always in the studio when she is. So when we aren't together for a while, we desperately miss each other because the studio is quite a lonely place. Great when you feel like you just want to hunker down and get some work done, and you can put some music on or put an audiobook or whatever on and just smash out some work. But I feel like that there's a limit to that, there's a limit to how good that feels and actually how productive you can be by yourself. And I don't know, not everyone is the same, and I thought I was an introvert for a long time because that's how I thought I loved to work. But then as soon as Ali came into my studio and I realized just how joyful it is to have someone else around. Yeah, I don't think I would ever want to go back to having just me in my studio, because I don't know. I don't think that's how humans are meant to work. Humans are meant to be in community. They're meant to be with each other. It's really changed my joy levels in the studio having Ali around. So yeah, love you, girl. Next up, how do you decide on what style / shape / what pottery to make, such as focusing on cups or bowls? I think I let what I fancy doing the most lead me for the most part. So I definitely like making cups the most, and so I will make many cups. I'll make loads and loads of cups, but then I'll kind of realize that it's a little bit imbalanced, and so I'll think, right, what else would people like to buy? People probably don't want to just buy cups. They might also want to buy a couple of bowls or a couple of egg cups or maybe some plates, whatever. But I try and kind of balance what is most efficient to make and most efficient to fire and kind of most cost effective to fire with what people are willing to pay. Plates, for example, are really hard to make. They take up loads of shelf space and loads of kiln space, and there's quite a high failure rate for plates because they warp or they'll crack or whatever, or they're more likely to than a cup. And also people are not really willing to pay what that risk means, if that makes sense. So I sell my plates for 45 or 50 pounds or something for a dinner plate, that's expensive. If you wanted to buy a whole dinner set, you're really investing some serious money there. Whereas a cup, you can kind of just buy one cup. So I think that I like to balance what I like to make the most and what makes most economic sense. I care quite deeply about function and functionality, and so I will make stuff like a cup because I can see how it's used in somebody's life. And I think that sculpture, it's got a more narrow market. Maybe you can fetch high prices for it, but I just feel like I can't visualize how sculpture is used in someone's everyday life, and obviously it's not, because it's a sculpture, it's meant to be viewed and enjoyed, but I'm so function pilled, I'm far down that route. I just can't switch that in my brain, and so I don't end up making sculptural pieces that much, or just beautiful pieces for the sake of it being a beautiful piece. I don't know. That was a little bit of a tangent, you didn't really ask that. So the next question is, if not for ceramics, what creative path would you have followed? I definitely would have gone down a more design route, and I've been having some conversations with people recently. My best friend in the world, Chloe, her and I have had a conversation around like why we did the degree that we did, and we met in our art school in our specific course that we did, which was like it was called visual arts, but it was like a craft course, and we were trying to work out why specifically we did that course, because she's more of a fine artist and I'm more of a designer. Neither of us know why we did that course, we just kind of did it, and you know what, it's fine, it's serendipitous because we met each other and like we're the loves of each other's lives. She's my BFF, and so yeah, like our paths led each other there, but it is a bit random that our paths went there in the first place, because I definitely should have done like more of a visual communications course, I think, because I am really interested in design and kind of how people use things and how people engage with design on an everyday basis. And she's far more of like a painterly illustrator kind of person. Anyway, that's a tangent for me to say that I would definitely be doing graphic design or some kind of design down there. And maybe I still will in the future. I don't kind of see doing pottery full time in my future. I think, as I kind of mentioned at the start of this, like the joy of ceramics is kind of, I still find a lot of joy in it because I care deeply about the work that I produce, you know, but a lot of the joy of a craft or a hobby is not selling it. And so those two things kind of don't necessarily balance, I think, long term for me. To sustainably enjoy my craft forever, I think I've got to think about other things that I can do. So yeah, maybe it'll be in my future. Now this is going down a little bit more of a technical route. So how do you avoid silicosis and how do you clean the studio? Love that. A boring technical question. Stunning. I avoid silicosis, hopefully, because we don't really know until it's too late, you know, scary. I make sure to mop the studio fairly frequently. I will sponge surfaces down instead of like scraping them or sweeping. And if they do need sweeping, then I'll like spray with water first so that I'm not making dust come up in the air. When I'm making a glaze or something, when I'm working with dry materials, I'll always wear a mask and open the window. And if you have a extractor fan in your studio, you should use that too. I don't, because I'm in a very old space in my studio. Next question is, do you have to be artistic to throw pottery? And I love this question. I think it's a really cool question. I think that no, you absolutely don't need to be artistic to do pottery. And I say this quite a lot in classes that I teach, where I'll teach people who are complete beginners, they've never done it before, and they'll start out by saying, I'm not artistic, I know I'm going to be terrible at this. And I always say, girl, what are you doing? What are you talking about? First of all, I don't want that kind of limiting language and belief here. Get rid of that. You can do it. You just have to follow the instructions. And that's what I really like about pottery, is that is just a specific set of instructions that you have to go through, and then you can throw a pot. It's like driving or like cooking or whatever. You just have to follow a recipe or follow the instructions and you can do it. Pottery, specifically throwing, is just controlling the clay, and once you've controlled the clay, then you kind of are just, it's like a process of drawing lines. So to make the pot grow, you're in one place and you're drawing a line with your fingers like that. Actually, don't pull a wall like that. I do it like that. Anyway, but you're in one spot, you're drawing a line and the wheel is moving around you, and it's kind of making the pot be a three-dimensional thing, but you're in one plane. Or you're drawing something like that, a curve, and then it's going to go out like that. So I just think that once you understand the steps you need to take, then you're going to be able to throw a pot. Hand building's a little bit different because you have to start making some artistic decisions, I guess, like is this cup gonna look round, or is it gonna be oval, or is it gonna be a square? Starting at nothing, so you can make lots and lots of different decisions, but throwing is specifically just following instructions and then it will turn into something. So yeah, I think that even if you're not a creative or artistic person, you can certainly throw pots, and then you can make artistic decisions later on, like what glaze is this going to have? Am I going to apply texture or decoration to this? But you don't have to do that. You could just glaze it in a clear glaze and it's still going to be quite beautiful, you know, like clay itself is really beautiful, and it's a really special medium because you can work within that. You can work within simplicity, but it's stunning, minimal, beautiful. And also just don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to that negative self-doubt or self-talk by saying that you're not artistic, because everyone is. You just have to kind of flex that muscle, you know? Kids are all artistic. They don't care. They're not thinking about like, what should this look like? They're just playing. They'll just like scribble, they'll color something in and you're like, right on, brother, it looks cool. Same, adults should need to do that as well. Adults can do that. You just have to practice it. And you can do it. Next question. Will you ever move back to New Zealand? Dunno. We are here at the moment, and every time we come here, we're like, do we love it here? Do we want to move back here? There's certain pros and cons about it. I think we've had a taste of like big city life now, and we love London. I can see myself moving away from London and maybe the UK, but I don't know if it will necessarily be back to New Zealand, or if it will be back to Christchurch, or if it will be somewhere else. It's always hard when you move away from somewhere that is your home and you're deeply rooted there, and then you make deep roots somewhere else. It's hard to decide where home is when you have more than one home. I count myself as a very, very lucky person that I can have that kind of mobility and I can make those decisions. I'm incredibly lucky to be in that position. Yeah, dunno is the answer to that question. Someone has asked me if I feel ready to talk about burnout, and then they just said some nice stuff, thank you. I have been talking about doing a burnout video for quite a while, but I just kind of, I don't know, I haven't, because I feel like, I just kind of feel like it might be boring, but I actually don't think it would be. I think I'd watch a video about burnout. Basically, a few years ago, I burnt right out of pottery, and I ended up getting a job in marketing, and I really loved it. It was only part-time, so I was still doing pottery on the side, and I wrote my second book in that time, and I was doing YouTube videos every couple of weeks during that time as well. So I definitely didn't stop doing anything. I just kind of slowed right down, and it was really nice. And I think it's kind of going back to that thing that I said before about like having a sustainable, joyful thing in your life that you protect in some way. So I think like stepping back a little bit helped me find the love for it again, and kind of got me to, you know, where I am today, of course, because everything does. I suppose I just burnt out so hard because I was working constantly. I was trying to make as many pots as possible so that I could sell as many pots as possible and make it a viable business. And I see other people who have hired people, and they have like thousands of pots moving through their studio every year and stuff. And I just don't know if that's what I want to do. I don't know if I want to like, well, I know I don't want to do that. I don't want to create like a pottery empire and make thousands of pots and, yeah, I don't know, have less connection with each single piece, because it's an important part of my life and who I am, and my work is my work, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to talk about it yet, because I haven't quite grappled with it myself yet. I think that taking a bit of time out and giving myself a break from it helped to bring some of that joy back. And I think if you're suffering with burnout, you need to really decide what's the most important thing. Is it working through it, or is it actually genuinely taking a step back and reevaluating like how you approach it and what is the most healthy thing for you? Maybe it is trying to work through it, maybe it's not. Yeah, maybe I will do a video on it soon. Okay, I'm gonna do some quick fire ones. I'm just gonna scroll through the list, and then I think we'll wrap up, because this has actually been quite intensive. My dad asked if my dad is the inspiration to my ceramics career. No, soz pops. And then someone's asked what was my inspirations to start my ceramics career. I just love making ceramics, and so I was like, right on, I'm gonna try and make some money from this. Someone said, how did you find someone to share my studio with, and that they would love to share their studio with someone? I was just really lucky that I knew Ellie. She actually worked for me a couple of years before she moved into my studio. She was having to move out of her space and I was working part-time, and so I was like, my space is kind of empty most of the time, so do you want to move in with me? And yeah, that's how it worked. So I think finding a friend who you know and love and also maybe does pottery or does something that can work in a pottery studio, that's quite good. Otherwise, I don't know, put it out on social media or ask friends. Yeah. Someone said, any advice for someone who wants to start a YouTube channel on pottery? Just start, just get going. Feels real scary when you start filming, but as you get going, you will start to understand how to record for editing. Fucking hell! Should I include that in it? And what makes a good video and what doesn't. I would start, if you really are starting from nowhere, Ali Abdul has a really good like YouTube foundations course, which there's lots of free stuff and there's lots of paid stuff. Or you can sign up to Skillshare using my code below, and there's lots of YouTube courses on there as well. But yeah, I think work out like what you want to make videos about. Is it about pottery specifically? Is it about your business? Is it about like teaching videos? Is it about vlogs? And pottery is part of that. I have kind of worked out like what my viewers want to see, and it's a little bit of teaching, it's a little bit about like me just having a yap. It's about my studio and like random practices in my studio, and yeah, just by experimenting I have kind of understood what that is. Maybe you just want to make an ASMR YouTube, that's great. ASMR is like surprisingly easy to make because you don't have to have a yap, you don't have to talk, you don't have to plan that much, you just make something. But just give it a go. It's quite nice because eventually you can start making a little bit of money on YouTube and that can support your pottery business. So a couple more. Someone said, from which brand is your clay, if you don't mind sharing the info? I've been kind of secretive about this the whole time, but I don't know why. It's a pot glaze clay and it's flecked stoneware. That's what it's called. You can find it. Other brands sell pot clays, like other places sell pot clays, but you can also buy pot glaze clay directly from them. How do you know that your glazes are food safe, or how to test new glazes to be food safe? Glazing is a whole thing that I find quite hard to talk about because it's such a big topic, and I would recommend to anybody to do the ceramic materials workshop course. Any of them, beginning glazes, I don't know what they're called, but there's like a beginner's one, there's a slightly more intermediate one, and then there's a like really in-depth one. I'd recommend it to any ceramicist. It's honestly one of the most amazing courses, 100%. Someone said that they're traveling to London in April, and where can my pottery be purchased? You can sometimes buy it from me, although I'm not always in my studio, so I'm not always that responsive with it, but you can definitely buy it from a place called Kentish Town Stores, which is in Hampstead, or you can buy it from the Garden Room in Erith, or maybe my website. Sometimes if I have done a shop update, you can buy it on there and select pick up, and you can come and pick it up from me. But I don't know if I'll have done a shop update by April, between now and April. Okay, last question is, how did you go about writing a book? Okay, so I've done an entire video about this, which I will link below as well, or up here somewhere. Basically, I was very lucky to be approached by a publisher, but you can just start writing if you feel like you have a book in you. You can just start writing and then you can approach publishers and do it that way. You should do it because writing is a really beautiful medium and storytelling is really fun. So yeah, give it a go. Okay. That was more than I bargained for. I hope that I've answered lots of your questions. I hope that you've had fun. I've had quite a lot of fun. And it's stopped raining now, so that's great news. I might go for a walk. Even though it's not summery, I'm gonna put some shorts on and I'm gonna hope that it gets a little bit more summery and that our walk stays dry. All right, I'll see you again next month for another pottery video. Goodbye, I love you.